All right, man. So let's just go ahead and jump into this. You have some stupid questions, and I think that I probably have some stupid answers.
Yeah, yeah. So this like I've always enjoyed doing stupid questions like what if? What would you rather do? But this kind of I took a more serious approach to this. When I say serious, like not very serious, but more like I made it's like an intentional thing I do now. I was in Turkey for an event in Istanbul, and at night, like we went and toured this thing, like the underground cistern, which is like kind of like the storm drain sewer things, like where if the city floods, the water flows into it. But this is like from like 1,000 years ago. Or I don't know what year this was made. Maybe Google will tell me here. No, I don't see the dates.
We'll say
Anyways,
1,000 years ago.
yeah, somewhere around 1,000 years ago, probably. So I was in there and I was with my team, some founders, some team members, and I had this idea. I was like, this would be so cool if I could just close my eyes, I could see exactly what was happening at its peak. So like 1,000 years ago, if I close my eyes while I'm walking, I could see exactly what was happening exactly 1,000 years ago, but I wouldn't have the ability to jump forward in time. I have to set the time frame. And I'm like, this would be so cool. I just want to like see the people working in here or people building it. So then I was like with this group and I was like, hey, like I have a question for everyone. And they're like, what's he gonna ask? Because I always ask stupid questions. So one of the guys, his name was Rob Benson, and he was like one of the OG Twitter guys, and he like scaled Twitter up from when it was much smaller, and some other founders of like Osmosis and other crypto projects. And I was like, if you could close your eyes and pick any time in history to be able to see exactly what was happening that period, what city would you choose to live in for that power? But if you have this power, you can never leave that city ever again either. So the trade-off is essentially like, let's say New York 500 years ago or like 1,000 years ago, there's nothing there. Okay, like you wouldn't want to pick this, but maybe New York 80 years ago would be super interesting to see. So you pick New York to live in for the rest of your life. And every time you close your eyes, you have the most interesting experience ever because you see exactly what was there 80 years ago. Or most people picked Rome. I would just pick Rome. But again, you can't leave that city ever again. So like you have to think about, do they even have good gyms there? Do you like their food? What about their healthcare?
I fucking love Italian foods. Yeah, Rome wouldn't be too bad. No, that is an interesting question. So I would still be living the modern time. Yeah, I'd still be living right now.
You would be living in the modern time, but every time, like you can also turn off the ability. So like if you just close your eyes and you're bored, like you're sitting there and you're bored and you're like I'm gonna go on a walk. As you're walking, you can see exactly. And the nice key here is like when you close your eyes, you actually see what's on the floor. So like you can still walk and not trip at least. So you can close your eyes and you're taking a walk, and you can see everything that's happening. So you'll just never be bored. Instead of like, oh, like I need to go to this other place and, see, like you can see into other people's lives as they're living it 80 years ago or 1,000 years ago, whatever city you want to be in.
Yeah. So that is a super interesting question. I think it makes it more difficult because there are not too many current cities that I'd want to live in that also have a really long, extensive history. I would probably not want to live in Cairo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. But it would be so interesting. But then the problem is you would have to go tour the pyramids every day to be not bored. There's probably not. Well, no, actually, that might be wrong. I've been to Cairo. It sucks. It's fucking shit.
I know.
I'll never go back.
You told me that you went to Egypt. It was crazy, right?
Yeah. It sucks.
So Egypt is probably out for me. One that I would immediately think of would be Athens. I think somewhere in Greece to be awesome.
Obviously, I don't like Athens. I think Athens is a pretty shit city, personally.
Well, I definitely wouldn't want to live in Athens now as my primary choice.
Yeah, but I'm saying like with the trade-off, it's like not worth it. Like, to me.
Yeah, but Athens also has probably like the deepest history of culture that I would care enough about to live there and make that trade-off. But I will say Rome probably does have the best balance of like current livable city that I would want to actually be in versus the historical component of being able to like, go through that exercise. But
Yeah.
I,
Like
I am,
even like with Athens, you can go to like where all the royalty live and see, like just walk into their place and be like, huh,
yeah,
interesting. And you close your eyes, you see exactly what they're doing. Having all their like gangbangs and stuff, whatever.
no, I mean, I'm trying to think of one that would be potentially a little bit different. Fuck, but yeah, there aren't a lot of cities that have been like continuously interesting for a long time or prosperous for a very long time or even prosperous now, right? Like I can think of somewhere like St. Petersburg, Russia, which has like a super long, extensive, pretty interesting, awesome culture and history, but I
Yeah,
don't really
but
want to live in
you're gonna
Russia.
be, yeah, exactly. You're gonna
Yeah,
also, yeah, like
exactly.
to me, it's like New York, Rome, or Tokyo, probably,
Yeah, I was thinking Tokyo as
or like
well.
Beijing, maybe.
Yeah, but I don't. Oh man, I don't really
Well, like
want
you're
to
not
live.
Chinese. This is like different.
I don't really want to live in China. But no, I would actually probably. I would probably nix anything in the U.S. just because it's not historically relevant for long enough. So I feel like it would almost have to be somewhere in Europe or Asia, just to be able to like fully take advantage of it. But I mean, you said Istanbul, yeah?
That's just where I was visiting. I
I
wouldn't
mean,
want to live in
that would
Istanbul.
be another really really
They
interesting
do
choice.
have, yeah, they have some of the craziest history there for sure.
Yeah, I mean that might honestly be a top three choice for me with like Athens, Rome, and then like Istanbul because that. I mean, how was it? I've never been there, so how was
I
it?
would never live there. No,
Okay,
like
yeah,
so
yeah,
so so one of the responses I got was from Dave, who's like, widely revered as like one of the greatest minds in all of crypto and all of privacy technology. And when we were walking, he's like, that's the fucking stupidest question ever. I would just pick the city I want to live in, and I wouldn't give a fuck about the history. I was like, damn, dude.
I do.
Like,
I
damn.
don't. I really like history. So for me,
Yeah.
I would probably put even more of importance on the city that I'm living in having a really long lineage of like interesting history. So yeah, I think that there might be some cities that I would be a little bit more swayed by, like Athens, right? Like I
You
would
could
be
go to the
swayed.
Colosseum every day in Rome and look at every
Yeah,
single day,
true.
look at what's going on.
Yeah.
Like, you would never be. This would just be so fun.
You know
Go
what?
go work at the Colosseum. You could go get a job there and just watch it every day.
You know what? I might change my top choice here to Florence.
Oh, interesting.
So I might say Florence. I mean, it's the heart of the Renaissance. Da Vinci, Michelangelo. You got the Medici family.
But remember, it has to be like you're only seeing what you're seeing right now, but that time period ago. So like you might not have access to these things unless you do. Like you have to think about that.
Yeah, yeah. I think I'm just going to go with Florence because I think in terms of the culture, but then also like the modern city. Whenever we visited Florence, I fucking loved it. I love that city. It's absolutely beautiful. I could totally live there. And then I'm very much into Florentine history. And I think that the Renaissance period is especially Renaissance Florence is definitely one of my favorite times and places in history. Oh, that might be my number one choice now that I'm thinking about it. Even Renaissance Venice is another interesting one too. Venice has an incredible history, and Venice is obviously a beautiful city. I
Living
don't
in Venice right now kind of sucks.
yeah,
It's like
it's too touristy, right? It's too
just
touristy
it's
now.
like it's like way I've never seen a city that touristy. It's just like
Yeah.
packed to the brim with people walking on, like everyone from China with their fucking selfie sticks,
Yeah, but it's also it's a
including
feature.
me.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, it's also a feature of the geography of the city too. Like it's a canal city, so like it was made to be dense, but it was made to be dense with merchants and people who were in the clergy and people who were there visiting like commercially, but even just like a standing army. But it wasn't meant to be a tourist city in the way that it is now. So like it just doesn't have the same feel, and it's not really a livable city, at least in my opinion. I wouldn't want to live there either. But yeah, it's really hard to go anywhere outside of Italy for this, to be honest, because I feel like I would obviously want to live in Italy. I think most people would want to live in Italy, but Yeah, yeah, that might be my final choice.
Good choice. Yeah, for me, it's probably either New York or New York, but like probably looking back like 50 years, I guess like the 70s or 60s maybe,
Yeah,
or Rome, and going back like how whenever the Colosseum was going on.
yeah. Rome is a good one. It's hard to beat Rome, to be honest. I
But
just want it to
also
be
like Rome isn't as big as like New York or like Tokyo. So Tokyo and New York are probably like actually the top picks because the cities are so much bigger, and you
yeah,
just never get bored. Like you can stay in Tokyo for your whole life and like not see the whole city, and you just never get bored. New York, you can probably walk the whole city in a few days. Or I'm
yeah.
talking about like Manhattan at least, like that.
I feel like I'm pretty comfortable with like Japanese history in the last couple hundred years, but I definitely am not super familiar with like how far back Tokyo goes. So I don't know. That one is probably a little bit more up in the air for me. But I mean, I
Mhm.
really enjoy Japanese history. I really enjoy Japanese culture. I've never been to Tokyo, but Tokyo is obviously a beautiful city.
We
So
should go. I
I
might
mean,
go. Maybe like September. 'Cause I'll be in
I
Asia for a few weeks. I'll be in Hong Kong visiting a team that I'm helping out,
I
and then
fucking
probably swing over.
I would love to go to Tokyo at any point. That is for sure like a bucket list thing
There are
for me.
direct flights from Denver. We should just do with Chris and Eric.
I'm down with
Can
that.
you
You commit.
imagine you us four or us five? Oh my god, or us four. Oh my god, we'd be so stupid. Be so
All right, you
silly.
have another question? I feel like we
Of
exhausted
course.
that one.
I have like 10 of them. Okay. These will probably be a little faster. If you can either live three alternate lives at the same time. So like take yourself and you plug yourself into three different cities, living three different lives, and you share the same brain essentially. So you're like triplets, but you share one brain. You
Okay.
can do whatever. You can even live in the same city if you really wanted to. Uh, and you live to 100, or you can live to 175 with a single life. Aging scales properly, so like you
Okay.
would feel like you're 80 years old at like 140 or something like that.
Okay. So three separate lives to 100 or one life to 175.
And your brain has the full ability to process all three lives at the same time, so like you
I'll say
wouldn't feel
that
like
one.
overloaded.
Yeah, yeah. I'll say 3 to 100 then. And that's not based on anything mathematical or any kind of logic. I just think that that would be like maximizing the experience.
Yeah. So this is the common answer that I get, but my main problem with that, and I don't know which one I would pick
That
honestly
is a
yet.
stupid question.
Exactly. Yes, this is the point. uh, but I feel like I'm gonna have so much FOMO on technology in the future. Like I want to see what technology is out in 100 years,
Yeah.
and this is like my greatest sadness. Like I won't get to see the craziest stuff.
It's funny. I actually think I'm exactly like that. I have huge FOMO on the fact that we have to die because I am someone who's like extremely techno optimistic, and I know that you are as well, just by nature of like what you do. But I feel like every generation in the future is going to have better access to cooler and cooler and cooler things.
Mhm.
Whether that actually plays out as like fundamentally being a net good for society, who fucking knows, right? Because people could argue that like cell phones have been corruptible and things like that. But I mean, I would view cell phones as being like a gigantic technological improvement and like something that is net good for everyone. But yeah,
Yep.
like I mean, in in 10 years, we'll probably have VR headsets that are able to simulate reality to a degree that's like pretty high fidelity. And I was actually talking to Lex about this. I was like, at a certain point, like we're probably going to be able to be put into some kind of like, matrix-y type of situation where if we were able to
I would
induce
do
like,
it.
but if we were able to like induce a dream state, and you know how in dreams your subjective feel of time or like the perception of time is like super thrown off, right?
Yeah.
You can fall asleep, have like an entire sequence of dreams, and wake up and be like, oh my god, that was a 5 minute nap. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
in a
You
dream,
essentially live forever by doing that. If you can like get 100 years of life into like 10 minutes, it's like
so that's actually what I was talking to Lex about with this stuff is that it wouldn't shock me if at some point in the maybe far out future we come up with some kind of technology to essentially allow our physical body to process compute at a much much higher frequency and also a higher speed to be able to induce some kind of like dream state that
Mhm.
allows us to live the equivalent of like, you know, a million lifetimes, while our physical body is aging normally, but our brain is subjectively perceiving that to be like a million years,
Yeah.
right? So
Okay, so I have a good question with this one then. What if let's say like you're gonna live to 100 and you have a happy family and like you're so
yeah,
fulfilled and everyone loves you and you love your life. You can live to 100 and have the perfect life. Or you live to 75, but at year no. You live to 65. But at year 65, you have the option to opt into this virtual reality where you plug in and you live an extra 500 years in your dream state, and then you'll one day just be gone and you won't even know. But you get that extra 500. So you're at 565 essentially. Your brain will perceive it as 500 years, and you'll live whatever realities are in your dreams for 500 years.
I mean, I would probably go with that.
What
Yeah,
age range does this cut off? At what age does this cut off? Like for
well,
me, like I
well,
would probably cut it off at 50.
so I'm living in my 65-year-old body for 500 years. Yeah.
You're just in a coma, but your brain is dreaming at the highest capacity, and like you will have the most interesting dreams for 500 years, and they'll be like more like continuous dreams. So it's not like where they chop off after every like 10 minutes. They'll have proper storylines that you'll be living for however long.
Yeah, I feel like I would still go with that. Obviously, like there are conditions to where I would change my mind, and especially if I was living a very fulfilled, happy life up to that point where I had to make that decision. But I tend to be very like utilitarian in the way that I view um like the prospect of life and lifespan. And I think that if there is any way that you can get like higher utility out of your life, I feel like that's probably a better route to go. So in my opinion, like 500 additional subjective years of like high quality experience is better than an additional, 35 years in my mortal body as I continue.
Now, like keep in mind, like you're leaving behind everyone that loves you, and they know that you chose this over them.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, whatever. I gotta do what's right for me, Gotta
Yeah,
protect my
yeah.
energy.
All right, let's see what I have up next. You can set a single temperature for the entire world. All implications take place.
There's absolutely no way to do this and not just have an immediate catastrophe.
Exactly. But you have to pick. You have to pick a temperature, or the world ends.
Man.
So literally, yeah, like you have to factor in the ice caps. You have to factor in, I don't know, Africa. like if you drop to 20 degrees in Africa, there go, all the elephants, I guess.
Well, I mean, fuck. I feel like I'm probably talking out of my ass here completely, but I feel like keeping the Earth cooler would be better in terms of avoiding complete chaos.
Like, doesn't this happen regardless, unless it's freezing? Like,
Yeah, I
you can't
mean,
just keep it cool. Like, it has to either be freezing or it's like pointless to keep it just cool.
yeah. So, like, my understanding is that a lot of the issues that would happen from like the ice melting are less about it's less about like adding additional like sea water or additional water to the oceans and like raising the sea level. It's more about like completely fucking up the proportion of salt to freshwater. That's my understanding, is that that will like wreak total havoc on pretty much everything in the ocean. But you know what? Fuck it, because I am, like I said, I'm talking out of my ass here, so like I'm not nearly confident enough to know what the fuck I'm talking about. So we'll make it at least interesting and just leave it at 69 degrees. I'll be comfy as hell. I'll be comfy, and that's all that really matters. I'll just chill at the equator.
Oh
I'll
my
hunker
gosh.
down. But I mean, that is a really interesting question, because I would imagine that I would wonder what the fallout of that would be. I'm sure you could probably like plug that into some kind of like weird simulation and see what would happen.
Mm-hmm.
But I like that has to play like just complete havoc on
You know what would be really, what would be really interesting as well is like, now that there are AI generated videos, you literally just ask these stupid questions to generate a whole fucking movie based off this stupid question.
I know, yeah. What there was some model that just got released maybe last week or a couple of weeks ago. It was some Chinese company that released it, but it's a text to video model, and it's like pretty insane. So like
Yeah,
OpenAI has their Sora one, but they haven't released it publicly. I know that they've just been like giving some people private tests, and Sora is insane. So like I don't know if you've seen those
yeah.
demos. It's
Give this like 2 years, it's gonna be absurd. Like there goes Hollywood, and like we're even looking at AI generated videos for content creation because it's not like we're hiding it's AI. It's just like people want to see videos of someone talking, and then like
yeah.
the video can also just have all the bullet points done. Okay, what about this? Like if you could set a temperature, but there are no implications, but the only implications are people might not like the temperature. So like whatever your
69.
favorite.
I'm that is the temperature where I'm the most comfortable by far.
Yeah,
Like,
I think so too. Yeah. So like all beaches will never be like 80 and like warm.
Fuck
It'll
'em.
just be like whatever. Yeah. But like
Fuck 'em.
mountain hikes are like super nice now at 69.
Dude, yeah.
Okay, speaking of mountains, if you could delete or all right, you have to either delete mountains from the world or lakes from the world.
Is this just my preference, or am I still trying to take into account like
Now this one's just your preference, but you're all the only factor that you're considering is people not liking it. So like there are no negative implications, no catastrophes in this question.
man, in that case, probably lakes then, because I
Because
mean,
there are oceans.
yeah, I mean, mountains.
Yeah.
And if there are no implications, no negative repercussions of just deleting all of the lakes in the world, which funny, but yeah, we can delete the lakes. I don't give a fuck about lakes.
Yeah.
We don't need them.
Fuck all the lake people. Fuck you boaters.
Yeah, we don't need lakes, to be honest, man. They're kind of in the way.
What about eternal darkness or eternal sunshine? The whole world. No implications besides people's feelings and not getting sunlight.
Yeah, that has to be sunlight. It has to be eternal sunlight. Because at least like if you want to go to sleep, you can just like draw a blackout.
No implications. Remember, it's just people like the sun or people dislike nighttime.
I'll still say sun. Yeah. 24.
I would do darkness. I would condemn the whole world to darkness for the rest of eternity. I just like the dark. I like nighttime.
That would like you have to also think about how depressing it would be. Like that would just
I already thought about this. You think I didn't think about this?
so depressing after a while, just being in perpetual darkness. Because what is it? Well, I mean, obviously, the further that you get from the equator, like, you start getting into like these weird.
The seasonal depression stuff. Like Iceland gets it. Like for 3 months a year, they're literally just depressed. They get like 4 hours of sunlight.
Yeah, well, it's also the opposite too. Yeah, in certain areas, isn't it like 20, 21 hours of daylight, or is it the same areas, just different parts of the year? Is that what it is? I can't remember off the top of my head.
I think it's probably the same area, different parts of the year.
Yeah, that's wild to me though. That's
wild.
Denver
gets a ton of sun. It's like 300 sunny days a year or something. They claim.
Well, I
just like the dark.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, like I can fuck with that though. I get it. I was gonna ask you something, but I can't remember off the top of my head, so we can just continue.
Okay. You can either delete all of fitness or you delete all of social media. So if you delete all of fitness, there will be no more fitness on social media. There are no implications to your work. Whatever your work would be in this realm, it would be the same level, same income, same ability to grow it, or same ability of failure. Just no more fitness. But again, you're saving social media, so you can still connect with people and post photos of your family and your dogs. Just no fitness.
Whenever you say no
but
fitness,
there will still be sports. Just fit. When I say fitness, I'm like posting pictures of yourself deadlifting, making money off of supplements. This industry is gone. There is no fitness industry. It's like you're moving to like, I don't know, some like what country has zero fitness? I don't know, like yeah, probably, I guess. but that's for different reasons. There are some countries that like have like, I don't know, like Egypt or something. I don't know what country has like no fitness. Probably the countries that don't allow you to actually post your ass, right? Because then you just get murdered and beheaded if you're, a girl.
Yeah. They probably don't have too many squat racks in Sudan. So whenever you say fitness, like you mean like just not even personal fitness either, right? Like I couldn't even just go to the gym.
No, you can work out. There's just no fitness industry, is what I'm like saying. Like you can totally be jacked. You can be your same level of jackedness.
Honestly, I might delete fitness then, because I think that in a way, like I hate social media, but at the same time, I I do think that social media is good for a lot of things.
Mhm.
In totality, I think that the fitness industry is pretty much a negative in a lot of ways.
Dude, I was gonna ask you this. I think fitness industry is a net negative.
Yeah, yeah, I do too. I mean, I don't know. It's hard to say that because it really depends on like what you lump in the fitness industry. Because in the industry, you're gonna have a lot of like scam artists. You're gonna have a lot of fraud. You're gonna have a lot of
That is
people
it. Yeah, you
who
have to
take
lump in
advantage.
everything.
Yeah, but I would say the fitness industry is probably more than most other industries. Is there are a lot of narcissistic people who, for one reason or another, have just decided to like park themselves in fitness. And I mean, I would imagine a lot of it just comes from like the glorification of like your physical body, and
Hmm.
then how people get rewarded based off of
Hmm.
something that is so vain like that. But
Hmm.
I feel like that narcissism really spills over into how everyone interacts with one another. And it tends to lead to a lot of just like superficially fake relationships, or at least that's what it can kind of feel like. So whenever you're in an industry and like you meet someone who is like very genuine, it's almost shocking. It kind of takes you off guard because you're so used to putting on this performance whenever you're
Yeah.
around most of the people in fitness, because everyone else is putting on a performance. So you almost feel compelled to do it yourself, right? You're like, oh shit, like
Hmm.
this is just what's happening, right? But there are a few people that are truly genuine. And so it's difficult to say like I would just nuke fitness as an industry, because like I said, there are definitely some pros, there are some really, really strong cons. But I do feel like we have gotten to a point.
Remember, the trade-off is like you have to delete all of social media.
Yeah, I know, man. This one's difficult. This one is difficult because I am also really burnt out on social media. Like I find social media, especially for business promotion, is just it's such a mentally taxing thing.
Well,
And
this is a product of your own work, so this is like kind of like
yes,
you make money off of it. And it's like sucks to suck, but like at least you're making money off social media.
yeah. So well, the way that I do social media, especially for business, is I mean it's advertising, it's marketing, right? So like if I wasn't doing social media, if I wasn't posting about my business and about trying to get more business in, then
Mm.
it's like, okay, well, what are we doing? Like running commercials, right? Like, are we posting ads on like billboards and shit, right? Because I mean, that's where traditional marketing and advertising has gone to. So yeah, I mean, it's like this is the easiest and most cost effective way of marketing and advertising. So in a lot of ways, like social media makes sense for that. But again, it gets so difficult to appropriately manage your personal life on social media and like continue to enjoy it in that front and continue to like be yourself and like post things that you enjoy or discuss your opinions. And sometimes like your opinions can be a bit uncorrelated with like your professional like
Yeah.
your professional appearance and like what you have to
Yeah.
upkeep there. So it does conflate a lot of things and makes it a lot more challenging. But I don't know. Look, I would personally love to not have to constantly balance the professionalism with like the personal aspect of my social media. I would love to just like treat it as my personal Instagram or do whatever the fuck I want to there and just like not have to worry about all of that stuff. But at the same time, like it's like a necessary evil. So in that sense, it's like it's really nice to again not have to pay for marketing or advertising, right? Like if you can be your own billboard, then it opens up a lot more possibilities for like what you do in the
Yep.
business. So
Yep.
anyway, that's
Yep.
long-winded. I just really don't know how to answer that question super well.
Yeah. All right, let's move on to the next one. So let's preface this one. How much are you looking forward to the future of AI?
I mean, strongly, yeah.
What about in your life? Like, how much of your life do you think it'll change? Let's rephrase it. If your life is operating at 100% right now, how much of a boost in everything do you think this will be, including like happiness and productivity as metrics?
So I think part of this is that trying to grade it on a scale is inherently going to be kind of useless because I tend to think that if this technology ends up playing out the way that it potentially could play out,
Yeah.
then it's gonna fundamentally just like be something different that like we've never really experienced before at like a a civilizational level, because a lot of people try to compare AI to like the Industrial Revolution, but like it's something that is completely different. So in that sense, I mean, I would like to say that if right now is 100%, that's in like a post. I mean, are we talking AI or like AGI, like truly like a super intelligence?
Let's say leads
Because
there, so all the above probably.
okay, yeah, because I think that that's different, right? Because if we have like an intelligent overlord who is basically an alien
Yeah.
who like views us at the same intelligence level that we view ants or something, right? Then I mean, we like that's a god. I like how else do you describe something like that, right? So I don't know, because that will fundamentally uproot like what we know as like society and like civilization. Like we have to think differently about something like that, especially if it can do all knowledge work better than all of the humans put together, right? And then if it's infinitely copyable, so like it's just running on software, so like we can take one instance, copy it, put it on another, and then if it can improve itself at the same rate as the best software engineers in the world, I mean, all of these things are completely unpredictable. So like, and if you can instantiate AGI inside of Tesla Optimus bot, like what happens then, right? Because then that's that's something complete. That's an alien. So I don't know, man. Like I think I tend to be very optimistic about the future of this stuff. I think that no matter what, it is scary. It's uncertain, and people like to have like the Terminator outlook on stuff that is technologically kind of scary and uncertain. So everybody just defaults to like it's going to kill us all, and we're going to be dealing with like this runaway rogue tech. I tend to be, like I said, a little bit more optimistic than that. But at the same time, it's like, who fucking knows what is going to happen? I would say that, you know, in probably 20 years, most things are going to look insanely different than how they look now. And I would say that that is most likely going to be due to, in some way or another, AI. So I don't know, man. Like, just think about it like this. In 5 years, we're not going to be able to tell what pictures on the internet are real versus which are AI generated. I mean, it's already getting difficult to tell. In 5 years, most things on the internet are probably going to be AI generated. Like all text, it's like all translation is going to be done by AI.
I'm actually really looking forward to that. Like being able to travel, just there are no more language barriers. Like, it like pops it out. Oh my
I
god!
agree.
I don't
Those
need to
are
learn Japanese anymore.
yeah, like those are some of the coolest things ever. But I mean, we're gonna start running into things like, you know, we're gonna have automated taxis, right? So we're gonna have robo taxis
Yeah.
that don't require human drivers. So like we're gonna start shifting away from the traditional model of like single person, single cars. And maybe people just don't even own cars anymore because we just have a
That'd be
fleet of
nice.
robo taxis
I
that
hate
you
driving.
yeah, that you
Even
can
though I love
hail.
cars, I hate driving.
Yeah. So like again, I think that it's fundamentally going to be something different, and I've probably thought about this a little bit more than I should have.
Yeah, we still got to get to the questions.
Yeah, so I would say that a society that is running off of something that is essentially like an AGI is probably also it's probably also operating on essentially like an infinitely increasing economy too. And at that point, like everybody's getting richer because the output is increasing exponentially. And I tend to think that most problems are solvable. So I would say that like quality of life and happiness is probably only going to increase, but at the same time, humans are really good at finding problems even as things are improving. So it's really hard to say like relatively how much different things will be. But if I'm going to say 100% is now, I'll just say 1,000%.
Damn. Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say
What
like
about you?
30 or I was like 30 or 50%
Increase or from now?
increase from
Okay.
right now.
Yeah.
All right, so let's get to the actual question. Let's you know, the question is: if AI continues, every year there's a 90% chance that there will be a major catastrophe somewhere in the world. This is like Hurricane Katrina, tsunami. A million people die off this 90% every single time, no matter what. You have a button to delete all AI for the rest of eternity right now. Do you delete it?
Isn't this the plot of Dune? Or like,
yeah. I was literally that's the next part of the question. I was like, this is similar to what happened in Dude, which I realized just before the call. I was like, wait a minute, like this sounds familiar. I was like, am I plagiarizing?
yeah. So I would. So you said there's a 90% chance.
90% chance every year. So like every 10 years, nine catastrophes will happen. A minimum of 1 million people will die, but this could be much greater. Just RNG
Oh yeah. I
depends.
mean, I would say that you have to press the button then, right? Because you don't know if you're included in that. You don't know if like your friends and family are included in those disasters.
Interesting. I was not expecting this answer from you. I thought you would never.
So well, part of it too is like you have to think about, will the benefits of AI increase faster than like the piling on catastrophes, right? But I mean, I think that anytime you have something that is a potential for essentially like mass death, you probably just have to avoid it and hope that there are other
Like
ways.
1 million people die, all the time. Like 60 plus million people die a year. What is the chance that 1 million that like it actually hits you?
Yeah, I mean, but I think in my mind, right? Like the normal modes of death are not directly attributable to like a single decision, right? Generally. So if this decision can be traced back to yes or no pressing a button, I think that you
But what about
have
the
to.
lives that you can save with AI? Is the net positive not worth this net risk?
So I think the assumption there is that like it is going to continue progressing at the same rate, which I mean, I'm pretty confident that that will happen. But there are a lot of potentialities, right? Like there are a lot of things that could happen. Um, I don't know. I feel like I could probably not be comfortable with knowing that every year, like my lack of decision making,
No, you made a decision. You
yeah,
made a
well,
decision.
so my decision was directly leading to
Okay,
past
so
death.
you have a conscience.
Yeah, unfortunately.
I see.
But I will say though that like there are certain decisions that people make indirectly that lead to a lot of people suffering, a lot of people dying. And they're making those decisions because it's a trade-off, right? So it's like, hey, we are going to make the trade-off of, continuing to have fossil fuel cars and fossil fuel run economies, things like that. And we know that these things are harming people, right? And we know that it's only a matter of time before bigger issues start to come about. And we continue to operate our economies off of fossil fuels. But it's a trade-off because we understand that we're not able to just press a button right now, turn that entire economy off and switch over to renewables because it doesn't happen instantly. And we also understand that most of the poorest countries in the world are so dependent on fossil fuel because they're cheaper and they're easier and they're more energy dense. So that's a really interesting parallel because I've always viewed fossil fuels as one of those things where it's like it's a trade-off, right? Like we understand that this is not great, but it's, in other words, like something that we have to just slowly transition away from. It can't just be press a button. I'm trying to think of other examples of instances where it was like a very like binary choice, but it was a trade-off. I mean, I wouldn't say nuclear, like nuclear warheads, because it's not generally something that kills people unless like you make a decision for it to. But maybe like the creation of a nuclear warhead. But yeah, I don't know. That is an interesting question. That's actually not, I don't think, a very stupid question because it does pull a lot of like interesting parallels and interesting variables into play.
Let's actually make the conscious side more interesting. Even though 1 million people at minimum are guaranteed to die based at a 90% chance every year, AI will offset this in some way, whether it's like better doctors, better hospital technology, robots doing surgery. It will offset it no matter what the casualty is. So if it's like 5 million that randomly that year, AI will offset it every single time. But your decision is the one causing those people to die.
Then in that instance, I would probably choose AI. So
because you're also saving the other people too.
Yeah, so I think that an interesting way that I'm like visualizing this right now is the question of if you choose non-AI, you just shut AI down and you save those million people a year from that 90% catastrophe. That's like a linear line, right? Like that's like a very straight slope upwards of like people that are potentially going to die from this decision that you're making every single year, right? But it's not increasing, it's not really decreasing, but it's just there, it's in the background. But in my mind, I'm also thinking about, okay, like maybe if you keep AI going, then it's more of like an exponential curve. So at the very beginning, it's like maybe not that useful or not that effective for improving people's lives, but over time, the technology improves and then it becomes a very, very steep line upward. And then at that point, you're saving more people than you're killing, and it
Mhm.
is worth it, right? So it's like you have to think about it more of like the long game. Is like, is the long game of benefits from a technology or a decision, does that counteract the short-term negative implications of something that would cost like a lot of potentially human lives? And in my mind, if it's framed like that, if there is like a guarantee of like long-term success, then I would take that. I would. And that is a very difficult decision though. And I feel like that's like a decision that not many people can actually wrap their minds around. But it's also a lot easier for me to say that because I'm not having to make that decision, right? But like imagine if you're like a politician or leader of a country, and that is something that you actually have to come to grips with, and that's something that you actually have to think about. Is like, okay, cool. I know that if I continue to make this decision and continue to do the things that we've always done, a million people are going to die every single year from our lack of action. But if we transition into this new technology, then in, I don't know, like 30 years, we might have some kind of payoff, but we're still going to be losing all of these people, or maybe we even lose more people, right? So I
Yeah.
don't know, man. Like it is interesting, but that's probably more so where I would lean, right? Like if there's a guarantee of
Yeah.
like long term success or long term offset, I'd probably go that way. Is that where you're going with it?
Okay. I would let AI continue no matter what because I want to see what
Really?
happens. That is the only metric that I
Yeah.
care about in this scenario. If there were new variables introduced, like your friends get put at risk, I'm like, all right, fine. Like, I'm going to save my friends. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
I would kill a million people to save one friend. It doesn't matter to me. And now if it's like 10 million people, like things change. I don't know what the number would be. It also depends what country or where these people are located. But like,
That,
like the only thing I care about are myself, my family, my friends, and like maybe my community or something. Probably not. But like, I want the place I live to like have a healthy like community, right?
yeah.
But yeah, like your life or 50 million people in some country I don't give a shit about, I would instantly kill everyone. Like I don't give a shit.
Well, part of this too is like, yeah, if you're thinking about probabilities, so like you're saying again, 9 in 10 chance every single year that a million random people die. At the beginning, it's okay. So like you said, 60 million. I don't even know what the number of people that die every single year is actually.
60 plus million.
How many?
60 plus. 60
Okay,
plus.
so let's
Like
say 60.
61 roughly.
Yeah, yeah. So let's say like 61 million people die every single year. So at the beginning, it's like 1 in 60 chance that those random people would be from like that population size. But over time, like you're gonna add up all of those millions of random people. So that is going to slowly increase the chance that like in a decade, one of those million are someone that you know or someone that you're
Yeah, but
close to.
someone might be saved by AI as well. So this
It's
just
true.
offsets.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't
Okay,
know,
let's
man.
let's let's let's
We can move
move
on.
on to the next question. So let's say like you're a scientist. Let's say we're hanging out in Denver here, and we're using this is like a actually a like a scene from like a this anime. We're scientists. We're hanging out in Denver. We're in my kitchen, and we're texting, and we're using the microwave to make I don't know to make some food. And suddenly we realize in our text messages that there's a message from like 5 days ago. And then we realized, fuck, like for some reason, this microwave turned on at the same time as us sending a text message, sent it to the past. If you suddenly have the technology to text yourself in the past, but every time you do this, there is a risk that you will butterfly effect something. And there is a risk, not 90%, but much lower. Let's call it 0.5%, that you will incur something relatively tragic in your personal life. But by texting yourself in the past, you can also influence the present. You would have to like carefully curate it. You would think about what the order of operations was at that time that you're texting yourself, and your past self would believe it. First of all, like you would believe that you're receiving a text from the future. You would first convince yourself somehow with some proof. So like, maybe you want to stop a car crash. You're like, okay, what day was this on? How do maybe I should invite my friend to go to this location instead of going to that location. Bam, they're now alive. But again, there's always a 0.5% chance that something tragic happens as well.
But yeah, no, this is super easy. I would probably go back to, I would say text myself in 2010 and just say, buy as much Bitcoin as you can afford. Quit school, save as much money, go work at Chipotle nonstop, and put all of that money into Bitcoin and do that.
Leverage it in Bitcoin as well.
Yeah, no, that's
but
exactly
what happens if your butterfly effect is the one where Bitcoin goes to zero and it becomes irrelevant?
That would suck.
I mean, this is a gamble. It could,
that would really suck. Yeah,
you could also be Michael Saylor. So no, you wouldn't even have to do that. No. You would be mining Bitcoin instead because it's so cheap back then. 2000. This is like a few dollars. Yeah.
Or I could just mine Bitcoin and roll half of that into Nvidia stock and
just hit the number one market value in the world today.
And I would be set. That's called offsetting risk, is what that is. That's a well-balanced portfolio.
Bitcoin, yeah, but I feel like being set on money isn't like what makes you super, like, that doesn't bring you the fulfillment. I feel like you would want to go do stuff. Like, you want to be the person behind NVIDIA. You want to be the creator or the leader of a movement that would be super interesting to you, not something you don't care about.
Yeah, so I think part of this is I always think that the money doesn't buy you happiness shit. I think that's such bullshit. It's so
money buys happiness. This is look at me. I'm much happier with money.
Well, so I think that's the point, right? It's not that money directly makes you more happy, as in like you look at your bank account and that makes you happy. If anything, that makes you more stressed. But if anything, I think that makes you more stressed. That makes you paranoid type of person because you're always just looking at numbers and hoping for them to increase. It's like people that watch stock charts all day. And
I spend my money because this is what makes me happy. Like living in a home that is my dream home, and like being able to travel, or like go buy a Jeep that you can go take into the mountains. This is like happiness, right? Like go eat somewhere that you love the food, and good food makes you happy. This is obviously money bought.
Well, I think part of this is that having enough money, it completely wipes out all of the normal stressors that people have to think about on a daily basis, right? So like, if you don't have to think about waking up and going to a normal job, if you have no pressure on yourself to make ends meet, to make enough money this month, this year, to support yourself and support your family and do these things, if you don't have to worry about all of that stuff, then you have no set time frames. That also, it leverages your ability to think in longer terms, right? So a lot of people, they might have these really awesome ideas, but they don't have the necessary resources to see them all the way through. Because if you start a new company, you only have a certain amount of runway before you run out of money, and it could be the best idea in the world, but if you run out of money, you're fucked, and then you just have to scrap it and you have to tear everything down. But having enough money essentially allows you to not have to worry about things, and you can just do the things that you want to do, work on the things that you want to work on. You can go to the places that you want to go. You can experience everything that you want to experience.
This is the whole point of making money for me. It's like, I want to do stuff and do stuff with my friends. And if they're broke, I want to be able to buy them dinner or take them on vacations, or like, like I have a home in Colorado now and all my friends can use it for free. And this is like, to me, rewarding. And well, one, I like, it feels nice to be like, hey, like we used Aaron's place. It was awesome. Like, this is like, to me, makes me happy. But, this is all, money. But I agree with you there.
I'm a big experiences person, and money, having access to money, being around people that also have money, it opens up a completely new door that most people don't even know exists. And
yeah, you're right.
And I think that that's where also a lot of, I hate to say like blue collar, like working class people, whatever, there can be this like almost like conspiratorial bent of like thinking that rich people are like the elites and everyone else are like, the middle class or lower class or blue collar, working class, whatever you want to think about it as. But it feels like there's like this cabal of like rich people doing like rich people shit all the time. And like, yeah, like if you're like Jeffrey Epstein level rich and you own an island, like you get into like some serious shit. But again, like that's money opening opportunities. That's maybe not good opportunities, but like otherwise you wouldn't be able to even think about, conceptualize. But even if you're going to Vegas, right? If you go to Vegas, there's like normal people Vegas, and then there's like rich people Vegas.
Yep.
And
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I've seen a lot. Like a lot of my friends, it's like they go to dinner and blow like 20 grand, 50 grand on a
Yeah.
single dinner, or like karaoke. I'm like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
So it's just like
I
people
mean,
just get the shit with it.
I will say that like money. So just kind of going back to the original question, right? Like there are definitely things that I would go. I mean, I want to tell my younger self not to do, right? Like there are a lot of mistakes that I made that were life altering in various different ways. I would for sure give myself advice, what to do, what not to do. But again, in terms of like overall impact, to be honest, like I've been lucky enough to like not have anyone super close to me die in like an accident. That one's luckily off the table. Like I think my own well-being, my own welfare, having something that allowed me to make enough money relatively quickly to where I would be 30 years old and not have to ever worry about monetary issues ever again. And I would literally be able to pursue the things that I am passionate about without any other underlying context clouding what I'm doing and what I'm working on. I honestly can't think of anything more fulfilling than that, right? Because I'm someone who's very self-driven. No matter what I do, I'm always going to be working on something. But, there always is the aspect of like, okay, cool, but I still need to be making enough money to support my lifestyle right now, but also to be setting myself up in the future to live the lifestyle that I want to be living. But if I just didn't even have that in the equation, it was like, okay, cool. Financially, you are set until the day that you die, and your next generation, if you have one, is also set. I'd be like, okay,
Let's say I give you $30 million right now, and you have to quit your job, and you have what are you going to do for the next 3 years, or what are you going to become or start doing?
The first 3 years of this money.
Say the first 3.
Yeah, first 3 years. Like, what do you shift into? What becomes your passion? Like for me, I would probably go scuba dive in like the Arctic waters, and probably go finish a 100-mile race because I didn't finish it last time. And these are like probably the first 2 things I would go and do.
So this is gonna sound probably kind of stupid, but
which I guess I could do right now. So I don't have the time for this right now.
What I would probably do, honestly, for like 6 months is I would just go live somewhere quiet and relatively off the grid. And I would give myself time to just think, like time to think, because I have for a long time just been in such a work routine, and I've been so like narrowly focused on very few things that it's hard to even think about what I would do, right? Because I've never really given myself the opportunity or the time to think about other options or other things that I could do or other ideas that I have. So I think the first thing I would do would be just take 6 months and just go relax and go chill and just think, allow myself to think and really like process everything. And then from there, I mean, yeah, I would like to travel the world, see places that I've never been to, do shit like that. But I would say after like the first year, I would have a really good understanding of what I want to be doing moving forward. But it's really hard to say. Like people ask me this shit all the time. Like if you weren't doing what you're doing now, or what I'm doing now, like what would I be working on? It's like such a difficult question for me because I've never given myself the opportunity to think about that to any degree of depth where I could give like a sufficient answer. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing that I like, whenever I see you travel, I get really happy because I'm like, oh shit, he's finally traveling. He's like, I remember that first big trip you ever took. It was not that long ago. It was like a pretty substantial trip. Was it the Italy one?
Oh, I mean, that was
like one of your first major trips.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, shit, he's doing it. He's doing it.
Well, I mean, so there are a lot of different reasons, but I mean, part of that is just, especially with work, it's always been really hard for me to feel comfortable enough to like take a step away like that, to where work is in the background rather than the foreground, and I'm like just living life in the foreground. And that's kind of what it was whenever we were in Italy. It was like I'd wake up super early, I would knock out my work for the day before Lex would wake up, and then we would just go do our normal shit from like 9 a.m. until like 8 p.m. and then we would come back, we would sleep, and then I would wake up again, work. So it was really just me getting the absolute bare minimum done while we were over there, and then focusing on, let's just like enjoy this experience. So I'd never really done that before because I've always just been so bound up in my day-to-day work stuff.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, I would really like to be able to just like do something like take 6 months and decompress and think about what I would want to do. But I also feel like that's a very like luxurious thing, right? Like that's something that I'm sure everyone would really enjoy doing if they had opportunity to do. But it's yeah, I mean that's obviously very enticing. Just even thinking about that sounds fucking awesome.
Well, let's scale this to like $5 billion. I'll tell you what I would do is there are two
Okay.
things I would do. I would go make a movie or a TV show of something I actually give a shit about.
Okay.
Actually, I would hire an author to write out this story idea I have in my head, and then I would hire like a movie studio to go and make a movie about it. And the story is there's a kid who has the ability to dream things into reality. So this kid, when they go to sleep, anything that happens in the dream becomes reality. But this kid's life has been sheltered, so the kid doesn't see anything bad, so nothing bad comes into reality. And then rich people will come and like ask and like incept something into the dream, like, hey, have a dream about me having $1 million. And then this kid goes and dreams it, and then suddenly this person's a millionaire. Cool. Now, what happens in this story is that the kid somehow catches a glimpse of another movie. And in this movie, it's like based off the movie Insidious, which was like one of the scariest movies I'd
Oh,
ever
dude.
seen when I was
Yeah.
2010, and I was, young. I had like my worst nightmare of my life, and like I had triple sleep paralysis. I woke up 3 times, got locked 3 times, and then I felt like I was literally gonna die. And this thing was like sucking my breath out of my mouth like a fucking Dementor from Harry Potter. It was floating above me in my bed in reality, but like in my dream, and I was like in the reality at the same time. And I was like, what happens if it just kills me? I'll let it try and kill me, and maybe it'll just reset my dream. No, like I let it try to kill me, and I literally felt like I was going to die if I didn't stop it. So like I finally woke myself up. Anyway, so I saw the movie, and in the story, the kid will watch the movie and see that the kid in the movie is unable to wake up from its dream. So then this kid goes to sleep and dreams that they cannot wake up from their own dream, and then this becomes their reality. They're in a loop. They can't wake up from their dream because their magical power is that it becomes reality. And it's a story about how the fuck this person either escapes it or doesn't, I guess. And I would want to fund that because it just seems like such a fun idea. Two, I would hire a gaming studio to create the greatest game of all time.
Oh, you cut
And I
out a
would
little bit.
direct it.
What you
I would
said?
hire a gaming studio to create the greatest game of all time, and
Oh,
I would direct.
and that's $5 billion.
That's if I had $5 billion, I would do that, and I would imagine this would cost me like I don't know, like $1 billion. Like the video game, maybe 700 million, $800 million.
Video games are so expensive. It is insane. I didn't realize that they were as
And you
expensive
know,
as they were.
yeah, but with AI, it might get cheaper by like
Yeah, it definitely will.
100x.
Yeah. If I had $5 billion, what would I do? See, I think this is actually going to sound like super dumb. I feel like $5 billion is like it's enough to throw money at things that you care about, but it's almost like not enough to really like pursue the most childish dreams that you could possibly have, right? So
Like having rocket ships.
yeah. I guess technically, that's what SpaceX. How much money have they raised? Like 10, 15 billion, something like that. I don't know, but I mean, I would want to say that I would pursue some kind of like Elon arc because
Mhm.
he's living out like the most insane childhood experience you could ever imagine. Just like going after these ridiculous moonshot ideas and making them happen.
Yeah.
So, I mean, part of me wants to say that, but at the same time, I feel like $5 billion is also enough to have enough power to like influence things and throw money at things that you care about. and also not have to inject yourself in the day-to-day stressors of like dealing with running a big company, right? Like I don't understand how Elon functions while running all the companies that he does, doing all the things that he does, and he does it
Oh,
willingly.
he's just burning a wick at both ends, probably.
Yeah, no, but he does it willingly. So it's very clearly a personality type or a quirk that
Yeah.
he has that allows him to
Yeah.
have the energy and the focus to stay on top of running $7 billion company. Like it doesn't make any sense to me because I think again, $5 billion is enough to throw weight at problems that you care about. It's enough to have a lot of power and influence, but it's also enough to where you take a step back and be like, I'm still going to just live a life of complete luxury and enjoy myself and be very fulfilled and reduce as many stressors as I possibly can. Because at that point, I think that that's almost what you have to optimize for. You have to optimize for like reducing all the negatives in your life rather than like trying to boost as many positives as you can. Does that make any sense?
Yep. Let's I have a few more questions. Time's probably relevant here.
We can speed run them. We can speed run them.
I'll give you a good one. You have the ability to control your dreams at all times, like just pure, lucid dreaming. And you can turn it on or off. So you have this ability, like you have to turn it on before you go to bed. So like you go to bed, you click you flip a switch, and you have the ability to lucid dream. Now the caveat is that somewhere in this dream, something is actively trying to kill you at all times. However, as long as you can observe it, you are always able to catch it and avoid it. It's like, someone coming at you with a knife, like, you'll see it happening, but it might be something falling from the sky, like scaffolding in New York. So like if you're walking around in New York, you better look up. Something is always going to be trying to kill you. Now, the first time you use this ability, it'll be very trivial. Like there's almost no way, there's essentially 0% chance that you would die. However, every time you use it, it gets more and more powerful, kind of like Final Destination. Would you take on this ability? And if you did, when would you stop? And it would never be 100% fatality, but it will always go up. And you don't know the level that it's going up at. It starts at 0%, and then the next day it's like maybe 0.00001. But the next day it might be 0.1. And you don't know the rate at which it gets harder. So like you will never know, but you will be able to observe the things coming at you. But it might just be a human walking at you. It's just like in the movie called It Follows, and it's just a human following you, but it seems like a regular human until it gets to you and then it starts attacking you. So you're just going to be paranoid the whole time. But again, like, you can lucid dream however the fuck you want.
Fuck. I mean, I would say maybe I do it like a few times, but outside of that, the paranoia is just going to start taking over and it's going to make everything else completely unenjoyable. I mean,
even if you die in the dream, you will die if it kills you in the dream.
Yeah. I would say like, even if you have a 1% chance of dying in your lucid dream, if you're aware that there's a 1% chance rather than it just being something that is like, spontaneous that you keep an eye out for, just like if you're walking across the street, just like looking both ways for a car, if it's beyond that, it's like imprinted in your brain that like you could have a higher chance of dying in this dream, then I would say that the paranoia would make it not worth it, because then no matter what you're doing, you're always going to be thinking about that predominantly compared to like anything else that could be enjoyable within that experience. So I would say maybe a few times, maybe a few.
Yeah.
But outside of that,
when it starts getting really observable and obvious, like, all right, it's time to cut it, like pushing a little close. But then like maybe like the experience is such a such a high that you're like, you go back in, you take another risk.
I mean,
like you can use it for anything. You can create whatever reality you want in the stream for those 8 hours you're sleeping. This can, you can, I don't know, go to Burning Man or something for 8 hours and or like have, relations with whatever person you want in the world, whatever you can dream of.
No, I mean, I would say that there is, I guess, that adrenaline junkie component to it where you're not really sure exactly like how that's going to affect you, because of people that do parkour on top of buildings and shit. And the chance of randomly dying is much higher than 1%, and they continue to do it to seek that thrill. So, maybe I would be like discounting myself, but it feels very much like at a certain point, no matter what you'd be able to beneficially get out of lucid dreaming, even though you could make and manufacture any experience possible. Just keeping an eye over each shoulder consistently, just to pay attention and just know that something bad is potentially going to happen. That feels not worth it in a lot of ways to me, because then you're not able to actually enjoy the experience.
I just thought of a good question.
Okay.
This is actually like kind of a fun one. You have the ability to read someone's mind. And every time you read their mind, you can pick like what you're looking for. Like you're looking for a certain bit of information. Like you ask them a question, they're thinking of a number, you go and get that number from their brain. Or like you're thinking of you're trying to figure out their deepest, darkest secret. However, every time you use this ability, you forget something in your mind. It replaces something in your mind.
And is that random?
And no, because if it's at random, you wouldn't do it because this is too risky. I would have to like break down numbers and percentages, but like let's just say like it would be, you would know if what you're gonna swap it with is gonna be like substantial, but you don't know which one it would be, kind of a thing.
Okay. Well, maybe it could be like equivalent to whatever like the information would be in terms of
The
importance,
value
right?
of it, yeah.
So like whatever the value of the information that you would be like pulling from someone else's head, you have to almost like transact and give that out from your own memory. I mean, that's interesting because they're
No,
obviously
because
like,
then you would probably the answer would probably still be no for most people. So it would have to be like substantially less, but it would still be something.
yeah, I mean, I guess it depends on what though, right? Because
It's like you get insider trading secrets, but then you forget about this memory of walking in the park with your mom, and it's like, and then she dies the next day, and you're like, I forgot this beautiful moment with my mother, like
dude, do you
something
know
like
if you
that.
got it, though? So like if it's erased from your memory, do you even know that it was there before?
True. No, you wouldn't know exactly. But
Exactly.
you would feel an emptiness. You'd be like, you would feel this sensation
Okay.
of something you lost.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, there are definitely a few things that would probably be worth the risk to know, but at the same time, yeah, that's a pretty big trade-off. So maybe, but it would almost be on like a case-by-case basis. And outside of that, it feels very much like it's not worth it. Because I mean, if you lose certain fundamental memories, it's like that's like carving a piece of you away. And like you said, it's gonna leave a hole where that memory used to be, or where that was previously in your brain. So yeah. I would, if I was given an example, I could probably give a better answer.
What if you can read into other people's minds, but when you use this ability, they can look into your mind at the same time?
Fuck. No way. I wouldn't do it. No way. No, I mean that's always like the interesting case, right? Because everyone wants to kind of like be a voyeur and wants to be able to like see what other people are doing, but if it's flipped around, or if like the terms are equal, no one would do that. Absolutely no one.
But like, what
Because
if theirs are worse than you, and like you think your thoughts are bad, but then everyone else is actually that much worse than yours? I actually had this thought like 4 or 5 days ago at arm wrestling. I was at the gym in Denver here, and I was looking around. I was like, what if everyone here, their thoughts were like displayed above their head, like a chat bubble, and it's like everyone in my fucking way taking my weights, I want to beat the shit out of them. Or it's like everyone's just like, oh, like everyone work hard, good job. Everyone's like, I wonder what everyone's thinking.
everyone's thinking the worst possible shit. Yeah, it's
Like,
not
huh,
good.
what if I took this plate and smashed it over someone's head? I would never
Yeah.
do it, but like, interesting thought.
Or just like thinking really bad, like just dickhead stuff. Like they're just thinking about other people. They're talking shit to other people in their head. Like girls being catty and patty. It would definitely be like that for
Yeah.
sure. I mean, but it's part of human nature, right? Like especially in a gym, like it's a very like testosterone driven environment.
That gym especially.
Yeah, and it's extremely egotistical. So everyone's in there like physically comparing themselves to everyone else. So you're automatically going to be having like those not so nice thoughts. So I mean, if everyone's thoughts were on display for everyone else to see, that would be a really, really bad thing. So I'm glad that that's not an actual thing that we have to deal with.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, here we go. Where is your dream house and how much does it cost? And I'll go on with this question after that. Like, let's say you have a budget of $30 million, or no, let's make it a little more like realistic. You have a budget of $5 million and you have to spend it on a house right now. Where do you buy it? And everything is immediately teleported for you exactly how you want it. And this is your It doesn't have to be your forever home, but it's your 30-year home. This is part of the question.
Okay. All right. That is interesting. I mean, if I have a $5 million budget, I'm gonna use all of it. So there's no point in me
Yeah, you
then.
have to use it all.
Yeah.
I mean, unless like the home that you want, like, isn't actually $5 million. It might be $4 million or something.
Yeah, but I guess part of it too is like depending on where you buy the home, like 5 million could go a really long way, or it could get you like a decent home, but you're paying for the location, right? So like the first thing I was thinking
the
about is
heart of Manhattan.
yeah, exactly, right? Like I was thinking about like La Jolla Beach in San Diego, and in terms of environment, like that place is awesome. Like I don't know if there's a single place I would rather live just with views and the weather. It's like fucking perfect.
La Jolla Beach.
Yes, but it's also in California, and it's also going to cost, I mean, pretty much $5 million just to
buy a
have
little shack there.
have a shack on the coast. So it's probably not worth it in that sense. So I mean, I honestly might say, I mean, shit, somewhere maybe like in the Colorado area because of its.
Oh, do you like Colorado that much?
It's not that I like Colorado that much. It's just that like I'm trying to think about the ways that you could make like the beneficial trade off of like the most baller home possible and like the most ideal home.
I think a nice mountain home would actually be really fun. You have a nice road that goes straight to the city, but you're in the mountains and like you can host all your friends all the time. And this is like the point of having a nice house is to be able to share with your friends and then like exclude the people that aren't your friends. No, I'm just kidding. But
true though. But I would also like potentially say I think a mountain home is probably gonna be the best bet for something like this because you could also buy land. You could have like a bit of a remote aspect to the home.
Like Charles Hoskinson's bought like some like ranch with all this acreage in Colorado somewhere. I should actually hit him up and be like, hey, like I'm in Colorado, you want to ice plunge?
Well, yeah, I mean, what
I sent you that video, right?
I don't know if you have.
Like, he posted a video of himself doing like a cold plunge, and he's like, "Are you guys happy? My shoulders are all the way." And I was like, "Your shoulders are literally not all the way." And he's like, "I'd like to see you do it. Show me how it's done the right way." So I posted it the next day. He's like, "Fuck, touche." And then I saw him in person. He's like, "Oh, you're that guy." I'm like, yeah, bitch. Well, if it was $5 million, I'd buy like a like a 2-bedroom house in New York in the center of Manhattan, probably. And like there are actually these bubble condos that I really like. And I'll probably buy one of those. It's just like, there's just so much around you. It's just so convenient. And it's really optimal for like probably dating, honestly, because there's so many people in the city, so many types of people, and also direct flights. Like I just want to be somewhere with direct flights. Anyways, the question is, you had your dream home, and this dream home belongs to someone. However, you can swap places with them, except you have to adopt their habits of cleanliness. So if they don't do their dishes, you have to do your dishes at the same rate they do it. If they don't fold their laundry and their laundry is all over the floor, if they have dogs and there's dog hair everywhere and they never clean it up, or there's dog shit, they don't clean it up, you also get that. However, if they have good mannerisms, you also get those as well.
I mean, I would assume that if someone has a $5 million home, they're probably like relatively cultured.
Yeah, probably.
Or
this question worked a lot better when I was asking someone this question at a $500K price range, and I said, you get to have this home for free for 30 years, but you have to adopt their mannerisms. And it was like I was walking in Colorado, or I was walking in Denver. I saw this like this condo building unit. And I was like, okay, I thought of this question there. I was like, yeah, at 500K range, like like my neighbor, he runs a drum business out of his house, and there's literally zero walking space. So if you inherit that home, it's probably worth, I don't know, like 600K or something. You're just walking around drums all day and there's no walking space. So like, this is what you inherit, and you don't know this.
Yeah. I think you would have to take the chance. Like you take the chance, you still do it.
Yeah.
But, I mean,
at $5 million, you take the chance.
Yeah,
it's obvious.
It would suck if you got horrendously unlucky. And
let's say that's 50-50. It's 50-50 at $5 million.
I mean, what is my other option?
It would. The other option is nothing happens.
Okay.
But it's the 50-50 is limited to smelling bad, dirty laundry, and dishes. and everything is like messy, but there's nothing like severe beyond that. So like dog hair everywhere, you know. So you're
Okay.
literally just living in a mess for 30 years for $5 million.
I think I would still do it. I think I would. I think I would.
Or you
But
know, you 50% chance you just get $5 million home for free.
yeah, no, I think I would do it. But I also am definitely much more of a risk taker in a lot of ways than I probably should be. Like my risk tolerance is pretty high. You know, maybe I'm not even thinking about how long 30 years is if I'm having to live with like really,
That's a long time, dude.
like
That's like the
really
rest of your real life.
yeah, like really horrible hygiene. But yeah, I would probably go with it. I'd say fuck it, whatever. Would you?
No, but only because I think that I can buy myself sooner or later and not have to take that
Fair
risk.
enough. That's fair enough.
But like, I also like even at $5 million, if you pick a place in the city of Denver, like there's not really a better place than my home, like right now, and it's not even $1 million. It's just the location is so prime, and there aren't $5 million pads like right here. Yeah, like there are like you know around, but like I still have to. I don't want to take the elevator 5 times a day and like spend like probably 20 minutes waiting and riding elevators. Like this is you know for me
Yeah.
like the optimal life in Denver doesn't really need $5 million. It doesn't even need $1 million.
Yeah, I
Well,
feel
it
like
needs around $1 million, but like not much more.
yeah, Denver's a good like intermediate city where like you don't
This
have
is
to
why
be,
I chose Denver. It's
yeah,
cheap
you don't have
enough.
to be
It's
like,
like 10 times cheaper than New York.
yeah, I mean New York you have to be like wealthy to sustain a living that in Denver you have to just be like comfortable, right? It's
Yeah, even $10 million in New York is like okay, like you'll have a nice home, but it's like nothing crazy. You need
Yeah.
30 million for the home for it to be crazy in New York.
which is disgusting. Like to even think about that is fucking crazy. But
Yeah,
no, dude. All right, cool. We can wrap that up because
yeah, that was like the last
Gone?
question.
Cool, man. Yeah, we should definitely do some stupid questions, stupid answers
Yeah,
again.
I'll compile more stupid questions and then I'll hit you up in a few months when I've got some goodies.
All right, that works for me.